Earlier this year, we first told you about the Janesville Police Department's mental health flagging system. It's a pilot program aimed at helping with interactions between officers and people living with mental illness by letting officers know when they're responding to a call for someone with a mental illness. This project has been in the works for about a year, and today they share details about this project with law enforcement and other agencies across Rock County. Today we talked with Sergeant Mike Blazer, and he says they've reached out across the country, and this may be one of the first programs of its kind.
We're not diagnosing anything, but if we can recognize that there's a problem, adjust our response as opposed to using tactics that are 20 years old. Law enforcement's always evolving.
And Patty Slatter was at that meeting today. She is the president of NAMI Rock County. For years, she struggled with her mental health, and she says she wishes that flagging system had been around when she needed it. Patty says it would have saved her the trauma she went through on her road to recovery. Tonight, we are putting her story in focus as she shares her story and her message of hope for others. This time of year brings a turn in seasons. A fresh start for fall. But for Patty Slatter, 4 years ago, she couldn't see past the season she was in. On North Harmony Town Hall Road in Janesville, a name for a path far from the direction she was headed on April 9th, 2013.
This tree was my last suicide attempt. The voices in my head from my mental health challenges were so bad that I mapped out the best tree that would work to crash my car into.
She survived with a few broken ribs and a neck sprain and was medically cleared. But Patty's struggle with her mental health started years before.
You know, sometimes mental illness is not shown, you mask it. I was struggling with depression. I was sad all the time. I just wasn't happy. I was working full time, but something just wasn't right. And I was a victim of a rape happening to me, and that just triggered the emotions even more, and I didn't know how to handle that. 50 hospitalizations, 12 suicide attempts, and I'm still here today.
Still here today,
I share my
and
story.
for a reason.
I had to take responsibility that meds weren't going to all fix me, people weren't going to fix me, the hospitals weren't going to fix me, and a combination of all of that. And with me changing my thinking and doing different therapy groups and dialectical behavior therapy, I then learned the skills of how to start changing things. It's that important to share a lived experience story to say there is recovery, there is help. I was told I would never get better. I was told I should be dead. We don't want to highlight suicide, but we want to highlight the recovery of what can happen when people ask for help. And
September is National Suicide Prevention Month. We have posted those resources to get help on our website. That's NBC15.com. Tonight, Janesville's police department is honoring citizens, businesses, and officers who've gone above and beyond. The police department's awards night is recognizing a number of people, including a woman who helped give CPR to Health Club and a man who witnessed an armed robbery and provided a description to help authorities take the suspect into custody, and businesses donating to the K-9 unit, among many others. Chief David Morris says focusing on reflection and appreciation is especially important this year.
You know, 2016 was really a tough year for police officers. We had officers ambushed and killed all over this nation. And so for our officers to get through it safely and to not question their profession, but to show up every day, put on their bulletproof vest, put on their badge, and go out and serve our community, we certainly want to celebrate that.
And also awarded its Problem-Oriented Policing Award to its Crisis Intervention Team for its work on a flagging system to better help people who have mental illnesses. Janesville's police chief says 1 in 4 calls that officers go to are assisting someone with a mental illness. That is why the department is working on a program aimed at helping those with those interactions. I visited with officers in Janesville to learn more. For 16 years, Matt Sheevy has been patrolling the streets of Janesville. He's on the crisis intervention team and helps during some of the most trying times. But he's a dad, too, and says at the end of the day, his ultimate goal
is to go home safe to my family.
And he says a new flagging program is giving him a better shot at doing just that. It's a system that got its start on the night of July 12th, 2011.
Making news right now and new at 11 today. Police are investigating a homicide in Janesville.
They knocked on the door, and what they found was a very large male, had no clothing on, and was splattered with blood, and he immediately attacked both the officers. The officers were able to take him into custody by use of the taser, but we then later learned that he had just murdered his neighbor across the hall, and that was the source of the blood. And we also learned that he was under the care of mental health professionals in our community.
Janesville Police Chief Dave Moore says that's when he realized there was a need to collaborate.
If you suffer from mental illness, your chance of being shot by a police officer is 16 times greater. And we thought, well, why on earth would we want to sit around and wait for the next moment of crisis or the next tragic use of force?
The flagging system was created to help officers know when they're responding to a call for someone with a mental illness. It's a pilot project, a combined effort with mental health providers like Kate Luster.
We've already seen it as a great opportunity for kind of the story to end differently for folks who have mental illness.
I can remember one particular time we had a female walk away from an establishment, and she threatened to walk to a bridge and jump in the river. It helps tremendously to be able to have information at your fingertips that you can look at, which potentially will help you succeed in a call.
When an officer gets sent to a call, they can look up a name, and
this officer notice comes up, okay? And from this page here, we can click on a files page.
And a crisis plan comes up, providing strategies that do and don't work.
Don't say this word or talk to them about this person or this thing.
And for Shivi, this is information that can be crucial.
Not everything is going to work at every time, but this gives us one more tool in our toolbox that we can use that definitely could work in a time of crisis.
1 week ago, we introduced you to Janesville Police Department's mental health awareness flagging system. It was created to help improve interactions between police and people with mental illness. Today, I talked to one woman involved in making the program a reality, and she's been in the shoes of those who this program is working to serve and shares why she wanted to get involved. Patty Slatter is vice president of NAMI Rock County, a committed volunteer for a number of organizations, and a public speaker. But at one time, her life looked much different.
So my journey started probably back in high school, but really in my 20s.
20-some years ago, she says she first tried to take her life.
And then I woke up in a psych hospital, and that was my first psych hospital stay. I did not realize that for 20 years that would be my life. I've been diagnosed with several different diagnoses. The main ones were major depression and recurrent suicide, as well as borderline personality disorder. I've survived about a dozen suicide attempts. And then over the years, my last one will be 4 years ago. April 9th would be my last suicide attempt.
And her life has changed since then. Now she's working for those with the same struggles, part of a committee with Rock County law enforcement, mental health professionals, and others involved in creating Janesville Police Department's flagging system.
I would be flagged. I would have been flagged back in my struggles, and to know that they're just flagging to say, we don't need to say this to Patty, or we can respond better to this to Patty, or we can call a friend instead of hospitalization for this for Patty. So I remember one time being handcuffed out of ICU after a suicide attempt, and just to get more education to say, you know what, it's the illness, it's not the person.
Working to help others get to where she's at today.
And this isn't an effort to reduce jails, to reduce involuntarily hospitalizations, and to get resources out to individuals more.